Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call our October council meeting to order. If you would, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is our auditor's financial report.
Good morning. Let's see here. We started the year with a general fund beginning net balance of $4,703,547, and you have granted additional appropriations of $572,504. If we take out that and the miscellaneous expenditures to date, which have been the same for a couple of months, of $14,251, leaves you with an unappropriated amount available of $4,116,792. You have requests from the general fund today in the amount of $16,000. That's for an appropriation request. One other thing to point out on the agenda is that there are transfers that total about $430,000. Last year in December, the total transfers were about $108,000. So I know the sheriff is a large part of that. I'm hoping that's through the end of the year, to get you through the end of the year. But it is October, it is early, and we did anticipate some of the unspent budget for 2024 budget. So just wanted to kind of point that out and, make sure we keep an eye on November, December transfers, which are in your consent agenda. As far as revenues, nothing particular to point out there other than we are at 75% of the year and 73.8% of our projected revenues collected. If we disregard, because taxes won't be paid until December, then we are sitting at 101.2% of that. So that will offset, some of the transfers or unspent budget. So fund balances, I didn't mark anything here other than the self-insurance fund. I think last month I mentioned it had been hovering, between 9.5 to 10. Last year we were normally at 10 million. Now we're at 9. And that was all I had.
Okay. Any questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, we'll move on to our treasurer's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For the month of September, our ending account balance was at $171,792,634.70, with an interest of $439,847.40. The average interest rate was 3.91%, and that's due to an error by First Merchants. We've notified them, and a correction will be made this month. The general fund has received a little over $3.5 million, and that is all I have for the treasurer's report. Do I have any questions?
Any questions?
So the error was that they didn't give us enough interest?
Yeah.
And will we be credited that back next month?
Correct.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
normally 5.6%.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, are there anyone that would like to make public comment about any of our agenda items before us this morning? If there's no public comment, we have our consent agenda, which includes the minutes from our regular meeting on September 12th. Are there any items there that need to be removed, or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Is that you, John?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Basham to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have additional appropriations. First up, we have Circuit Court.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve additional appropriation for Circuit Court Judge Person from the general fund for $16,000.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the general fund appropriation for Circuit Court in the amount of $16,000 for pauper attorney. Discussion.
So as you know, we've talked about before, the pauper attorney isn't always able to be budgeted, and they just had more than we had budgeted for the year, so hopefully this will get us through the year. Do you have anything to add, Jody?
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing, go ahead, John.
I have a question. Probably doesn't make sense, but my thought. When we balance the budget and cut some of the pauper out and some of these other issues, and then we come back and we approve it again and add to it, do we change the percent that we're trying to achieve at the end for the balance of the budget? Does the attorney know that?
Might be an auditor question, but I think what you're asking is when we're projecting the budget, we do it based on a percentage of projected revenue based on the idea that we're not going to spend it all. And so I think it doesn't get changed with DLGF or anybody because you don't have to. I think that's just part of what's built into our percentages.
Satisfying the state?
I think so, yeah. I don't think it requires, I mean, what the state wants to see is the advertising for additional appropriations and you going through this process here, so.
And they make sure that you have enough cash to cover it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Prosecutor Fund 1170 appropriation.
I move to approve appropriation for the prosecutor from the Lit Public Safety Fund, 1170, for $20,000.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Lit Public Safety Fund 1170 appropriation for the prosecutor in the amount of $20,000. Discussion. Good morning.
Good morning. We believe this will be sufficient to the end of this year. Majority of these costs are due to grand jury transcripts from a year ago that are just getting finished and the bills are coming in.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 8198.
Mr. President, I move for us to approve for the ICAC Task Force Fund 8198 grant appropriation software for appropriation for $9,800.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the ICAC Task Fund 8198 grant appropriation in the amount of $9,800. Discussion.
Thank you. This is the grant we get yearly for the last, I think, now 14 years, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force that obviously investigates crimes against children, sexual exploitation, child pornography, child solicitation on the Internet. So we will use this for buying or updating software that we use in our investigations.
Okay. Questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Surveyor General Drain Improvement Fund appropriation.
Mr. President, I would move that we approve from account 1158 to cover the drain maintenance cost.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard to approve the General Drain Improvement Fund 1158 appropriation in the amount of $1.2 million. Discussion. Good morning.
Hello. We're just moving it from our cash on hand into our general maintenance to cover it for the rest of the year.
Okay. Questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you. Next, we have Community Corrections Fund 9178 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Gateway to Hope Counseling Fund 9178 grant appropriation in the amount of $12,000.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Gateway to Hope Counseling Fund 9178 grant appropriation in the amount of $12,000. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a $12,000 grant that we were fortunate to receive. We're using these funds. We're paying a company that we already do some work with within community corrections that provides just some oversight for our mental health and substance use counselors in an area that I don't have a whole lot of expertise in, so we're using those to make sure that they're doing what they should be doing and following best practices and helping us establish our New Leaf Center just a little more as we continue to grow and develop that.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is
Thank you.
approved. Thank you. Next, we have Highway, Local Road and Street appropriation.
Mr. President, I'd move that we approve from Fund 1169, the local share of the Morehouse Phase 1 construction project.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard, to approve the Local Road and Street Fund 1169 appropriation in the amount of $1.135 million. Discussion.
This is, as Councilman said, Morehouse Phase 1. This is the roundabout at Calver and Morehouse. That's the 1st of December. They'll bill due upon receipt. Our share, this is actually an estimated based on the engineer's estimate plus 10% to cover so we could run a claim in December and make the payment.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Health Vaccine Reimbursement Fund appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Vaccine Reimbursement Fund 9170 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,693.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Vaccine Reimbursement Fund 9170 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,693. Discussion.
Just additional supplies that they need as they see an increased amount of people that they're assisting with.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have WIC Fund 8880 grant appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the WIC Nutrition Services and Admin NSA Fund 8880 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,377,645.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the WIC Nutrition Services and Administration Fund 8880 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,377,645. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This grant is for fiscal year '24. It just allows WIC services to continue in Tippecanoe County.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have salary statements for the grant.
Make a motion, we approve the salary statements, all three, and total up to $801,163.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the salary statements for WIC for the latter part of '23 and all through September of '24 in the amount of $801,163 in salaries. Discussion.
Again, these are the salary statements for fiscal year '24, and that's why they're divided between October to December and then January through September.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have the WIC Peer Counseling Fund 8882 appropriation.
I'll make a motion, we approve the WIC Peer Counselor Fund 8882 grant appropriation in the amount of $93,237.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the WIC Peer Counseling Fund 8882 grant appropriation in the amount of $93,237. Discussion.
Again, this is the grant for the peer counselor portion of WIC, so allows peer counselor services to continue for fiscal year '24.
Okay, any discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have the salary statement.
Make a motion, we approve WIC 8882 part-time peer counselor salary statement up to $24 an hour.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the WIC 8882 part-time budget in the amount of up to $24 per hour. Discussion.
This is the salary statement for fiscal year '24 for part-time peer counselor staff.
Okay. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sheriff Fund 9603 appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Indiana Law Enforcement Grant Fund 9603 grant appropriation in the amount of $17,000 as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the Indiana Law Enforcement Assistant Grant Fund 9603 appropriation in the amount of $17,000. Discussion.
Yeah, this is for us to purchase another canine. It would bring us to 8 for the department.
Okay. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have misdemeanor fund appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve misdemeanor fund 1175 appropriation in the amount of $23,000 as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the misdemeanor fund 1175 appropriation in the amount of $23,000. Discussion.
This will be so we can buy more jail mattresses. They're going kaput, and our population's going up. And uniforms for the females, we're going to change them, the colors of them for various reasons, but and also new pot office chairs.
Okay. Questions or discussion?
Quick question. What's our population now in jail?
It was about 585 when I was gone last week, and it just keeps going up. And that's because DOC hasn't been taking any because of a software issue they had. I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago. They've got it squared away, so they should be taking more people out of our facility.
And what is the percentage of male versus female population?
Offhand, I don't know. I haven't looked. I mean, Depot's full.
What color are we going to?
They were having a discussion about that. They need to change the color. They're like a...
Why? What is it now, orange?
No.
Blue?
It's like a greenish color, but for various reasons it needs to change.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
It would if I wasn't on this microphone, John.
That's a discussion for another time,
Yes.
sounds like.
And Joe's back there wondering what he needs to interview me about, but it's all right.
He is smiling pretty big.
All right. Any other pertinent questions to the actual expenditures? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have committee reports. Any of those to come before us? We have other business, Otterman Public Library appointments.
Yes, apparently they had 2 resignations, so they have submitted 2 replacement names.
Okay. Do we need to pass a motion to approve those, I assume?
Yeah, it's your
Okay.
joint appointment with
with Benton County.
Benton County.
Does anyone see any issues with these two appointments? If not, do I have a motion to approve these two, to finish these two terms?
I'll make a motion to approve Hunter Fleming and Tabitha Corbin to complete the terms in which that they're replacing.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the appointments for the Otterburn Public Library Board of Hunter Fleming and Tabitha Corbin for the remaining terms listed. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Unfinished business. New business. Welcome.
Thank you. Is this mic on? It is, great. And, Jennifer, I don't know if you have that, if you could pull that up. In front of you, you have a proposal from Greater Lafayette Commerce to continue funding our marketing efforts for the community. And when we get the slide deck pulled up, we'll roll through that. But if you remember, we started this process back in 2017, identifying that when people were looking at our community, or businesses were looking at our community, evaluating whether or not they wanted to come here, we had a challenge. Most of the publicity, or most of the things they would find on the internet, were negative. And our local media was focused on the negative aspects of the community as well. While all of us living here know we have a great place to live and work, and we have a great economy, and we have great government, we have certain government, we have great schools, we have all of the assets that people are looking for and businesses are looking for, but it wasn't evident in searches on the internet. And so in 2017, a coalition was formed by Mayor Rosworski to look at how do we address that? How do we get the good stories about the community out in the web so that people will find it and people will understand that they can be happy and successful here and that businesses can be successful here. So we launched that, and in 2020 we had developed a brand. The brand had 3 platforms. One was a unifying logo system. The second was a website with video assets and the stories about the community, and the third was the Greater Lafayette magazine. And the magazine launched in 2020, and it's been out, and it's well received, it's award-winning, and has helped us develop over 150 stories now at this point that we use in social media, and we tell all those good stories about the community, so we're building that depth in the internet. In 2021, we had realized early on in that process that this ongoing effort couldn't be funded entirely and solely by the counties and the cities and the partners at the table, that we needed a source for long-term funding. And so we went to the legislature in Indianapolis and asked for them to return the 30% that had been given to the DNR since the early 90s for the Prophetstown State Park. They agreed with that assessment, that those funds should be returned to the community, and they passed legislation to give 20% back. They left 10% with the DNR at that point, and then in 2023, we went back and asked for that additional 10% back, which they have approved. The governor signed into law, and it'll be prorated back to Tippecanoe County for spending over the next 10 years. And so it'll prorate down 1% per year. So in that work that we've done, if we could just go ahead and advance a slide, and I'll kind of go through some things. Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. One of the first things we did, and getting us through the hurdle of the initial brand launch and all of that work, was hiring Michelle Brantley, who's here with me today. Michelle is our in charge of this entire program as our marketing communications vice president. So I kind of went through this. We knew we needed that long-term approach for funding. We did go back and get that with all of your support, as well as the support of our corporations, and we have letters of support currently for this round of funding for us from Caterpillar, Dana Corporation, Purdue Research Foundation, and I'm going to ask Michelle to come up and bring all of those up and explain who they're all from again.
So we have letters of support from the Tippecanoe County Board of Commissioners, from Mayor Rosworski, Mayor Dennis, Avonic, Caterpillar, Fairfield, Dana, Purdue Research Foundation, Ivy Tech, Franciscan Health, Indiana University Health, Old National Bank.
So we knew that the community, support was entirely, important and appropriate for this type of work because we are trying to attract people to work at those corporations. And as you know, for the health systems, it's incredibly challenging to attract the specialists that we need here, as well as for Wabash and SIA and Caterpillar and all those companies, all of those middle skills that are so hard for them to find in our local economy and continue to be a challenge for us to attract new businesses in and for those companies to expand. So this was where we'd been, and I kind of talked through that. And so in 2022 and 2021, you approved funding for us to the amount of $437,000 to launch forward into the marketing phase of the campaign. And so we've done that, and we've also created additional video assets, new recruitment and welcome guides. We have copies of those if you'd like to see those. And we've supported some community events, and we've developed the downtown attraction assets as well. And then I have a little bit more about the marketing campaigns that we've been doing into Illinois and Ohio and Michigan. And so we started in 2021. We launched a pilot program with a company called TMAP. They were out of Indianapolis. They've now changed their name to Make My Move. We asked them to help us develop a playbook. Their skills at the time were primarily in recruiting people with advanced degrees, bachelor's and higher, to come back to Indiana and work for companies. And so they married sort of the dark arts of the internet with talent recruiting, and they were the principals behind the company were those who founded Angie's List, and so they had some expertise in that, using the internet to get people's attention. And so we partnered with them to help develop a playbook about how do we recruit people with middle skills to come into work in our economy. And they tend to be high school graduates with maybe certifications or associate's degrees from a community college, and they tend to live within 50 miles of where they grew up. And the Purdue economists tell us as a nation, we are becoming less and less mobile as well. And so it's a particular challenge to recruit people to move to a location for those jobs. And so we know that we do need that. We need those people to consider moving here. And so we targeted Illinois and Ohio. We developed a playbook, which you'll see kind of explained in that funding proposal a little bit more. And then we launched into that in 2022 and 2023 and with our marketing tactics. And we went from, on that period of time in our Greater Lafayette IND website, from 4,000 users from January to August to over 30,000 users from August 18th through November. So we scaled that up tremendously, and those were users. In the campaign itself, we had over 100,000 impressions or views of the campaign where people saw it, and we went through streaming services as well as email, as well as on ads on people's phone, and we targeted where they were at. We surveyed our employers to find out who were the best employees they had in hard-to-find job categories. In those, then we created demographic profiles of those individuals and targeted them, married with a propensity to move. So these are people who are on Zillow looking for places to live, on rent.com, and also on job boards looking for new career opportunities. And what we learned in that, we had essentially two paths. One was ads that talked about the careers and the opportunities in careers, and the other path was quality of life. And what we found was that the quality of life aspect got people to click. They were more likely to look at what their quality of life would be, and then they would end up on those employer pages. And so you can see we went from 656 views of our employer pages that link off to the employer's job boards to over 9,000 in that first iteration of the program. And then in the second iteration that we did in 2023, we went from 800 to over close to 13,000 views of those employer pages. And so we're building awareness about this community. We know that it takes a while for that to have an effect. We think that we have a better quality of life than most places in Illinois right now, just because of the uncertainty of the state government and the tax rates. And so for the next round, we're looking to continue that campaign in Ohio and Illinois and expand into Ohio as well. So we use all of these assets that we've developed, from videos to the stories that we have from the magazine, to build out that awareness and to use in those campaigns. We have developed a new video. I'd like to show it. I don't know if this will work, Jennifer. Okay. This is the website, greaterlafayetteIND.com. And then this is our new video asset we've developed, which is unavailable. No sound. Okay. So I'll talk through it. So it's a narrated video. It's really spoken word poetry. It was produced by Jack Link Productions, and Angie Klink wrote the spoken word poetry. That's the narration of the video, and it shows all of our assets around the community. I encourage you to go out and take a look at it. It is really quite compelling. And I think it'll resonate with you about your experiences here and why you love this place like we do. So if I minimize this, I'll get back to the... We also have been in production with Real People, Real Stories, and those are about people who really live here. All of those video assets that you saw for that video are real people here, right? So it's not actors and things. So with Real People, Real Stories, though, we're interviewing people who live here and telling their stories as well. And again, we're building that out into these campaigns to attract people. One of the things that as we've talked to our stakeholders, we meet routinely with them in a couple of different ways. We have a Workforce 2030 meeting that meets with the employers on a monthly basis, and then we're also meeting with the mayors and commissioners on a monthly basis as well, talking about the campaign and working through things that we should be working on and addressing. One of those is that the employers have found that the HR managers are often in charge of creating their own recruitment packets for when somebody's moving here from outside of the community. And so they've asked us to help put that together for them. And so using a lot of the information that the Visit Lafayette, West Lafayette had already developed, and that's another aspect of this. The Greater Lafayette IND website does link off to your website, the city's website, Visit's website, our website as well. What we didn't want to do was recreate kind of assets that were already out there, and so we have a strong linkage there. So using all of that material, we created a recruitment guide, which will help motivate people to want to move here, and that guide can be branded by a corporation, so a corporation can put their own logo on it. We've seen that in larger communities around the country where there is an agency like ours that is putting those together for corporations. And then a welcome guide, that has a lot of the materials that they would need if someone did make a move here. We also, over this period of time, did work with the City of Lafayette and created a downtown Lafayette website page off of the Greater Lafayette IND page. And then also, the region did adopt Greater Lafayette as the regional brand for the READY program that was launched in 2021. So we're asking for funding for the next 5 years, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. We'd like to keep this campaign going, and we'd like to have that long-term commitment. Again, the percentage coming back to Tippecanoe County is increasing, and so next year it should be 21%. The year after that it should be 22% of the innkeepers, and the innkeepers tax has been increasing as well. So we're asking for an increase from $437,000 to $500,000 for the next 5 years. Well, one of the things that we have committed to do as well is we've been working again with the mayors and commissioners and their teams substantially over this period of time, but we'll also re-engage with our original coalition members and make sure that we're on the right track to move things forward.
Okay. Questions from council?
Just a comment. I'd like to commend you and your team on an excellent job of presenting this and walking us through and how you presented it. It was very thorough and very good, and very excited about the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott, I'd also like to add that the chamber does a great job. Work with the chamber on a few things. But,
thank you, Councilor.
Couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Since I made a deposit in the emotional bank account. How much revenue is generated from the innkeeper's tax? How much revenue a year does the innkeeper's tax put in?
Everybody looking at me?
Well, we figured you'd have the
You
numbers.
said it's going up.
For 2022, the total was 3.2 million, and the projection for this year is 3.8 million.
All right. Surprise.
And that's in totality. So that still has, for 2023, 10% of that going to the DNR. Next year, it'll go down a percentage.
And Scott, on that, in that other vein, you're asking for $500,000 from Tippecanoe County?
Mm-hmm.
How much is the city of Lafayette and the city of West Lafayette? How much are they kicking in?
Well, again, this was the idea that we would go back to the legislature and get the 30% that was leaving Tippecanoe County and going to the DNR, and we would secure that back with the thought that we would pay for the long-term funding of the marketing campaigns, but then also there'd be some balance left over for other use at some point in time. So I think this year the number is something like, is it 800?
700,000.
700,000, and so we're not
No,
asking for
no,
the
close
full
to
amount
8.
that's coming back.
775.
775 this year, and so we're not asking for the full amount to go to us, but for a portion of that, and then the balance can be.
So I'm a little slow. So who writes the check for the 500?
The county does, but it's of innkeeper tax. So we distribute to all of the entities the
So it's-
total innkeeper tax.
So it's not the constituents of Tippecanoe County. Their property taxes and whatever goes all into that, all the other tax.
It's not property tax.
Right.
And really, the work they have done has enabled us to have more money coming back in the community.
I understand
for other
that.
projects. So without your diligent work, we would not be able to do some of the things.
I understand that. Yeah. I just curious about the money, who writes the check and where's that money coming from and how much, again, is Lafayette paying and how much is West Lafayette?
And they had, so all of the coalition members.
Both mayors were willing to sign it. I just want to know how much money they're going to write for us.
So the original coalition was funded equally by the county and the two cities, but the idea was we would find new money and not ask for the property taxpayers in the county, any of them, cities, county, to pay for ongoing efforts. And so that's when it was identified the innkeeper's tax leaving the community, going to the DNR, and being put into a fund at the DNR to pay for what looked like expansions at other state parks. And so that's why we identified, and they supported, the mayors went and supported recapturing that money as well as our county commissioners participated in those meetings with the legislators.
So is this something we can approve today?
No.
No.
Scott, can you explain kind of in some detail how the money was spent the last couple of years? I know you were allocated up to $437,000 per the resolution. Out of curiosity, how was that spent?
So there was funds that were spent on the video assets, the production of those other assets that went into it. We have hired and spent money on those marketing campaigns, and so we have a third-party digital expert digital advertising company that we work with that we've spent those funds with, and then we've increased the staff at GLC to pay for that additional marketing effort.
So salaries, contracts?
Yep, salaries, contracts.
Websites, possibly?
We're paying for websites.
Okay. Of the metrics that you gave us in terms of number of visitors for the websites, which increased dramatically, are those unique visitors or are those just total clicks?
Those are unique, and so the total clicks are multiples above that.
Okay. Okay. Can you go in detail what the downtown attraction assets component is?
So the city of Lafayette asked for help with outbound marketing, and that's the way we've structured these initiatives, is that they're for targeted audiences outside of the community. There's other ways that can be funded for marketing inside the community. And so we looked at two things. One was the number of vacancies in the downtown to make sure that we had all of those vacancies. And we did ask if West Lafayette at that point wanted to participate as well, and at that point they said not right now, but I'm sure in the future they will. And so we looked at the vacancies in office space as well as in living space, and you probably know there's not a lot of vacancies in places to live in the downtown. And so we captured all of that and created pages talking about how businesses could be successful in the downtown, and with the idea to recruit businesses from outside of our county to want to have locations in downtown Lafayette.
I remember when we met prior to the original resolution, a couple things that we talked about were housing was a component you're going to focus on. How successful has that been, or have you shifted, or you preached that topic, along with how successful have the programs been in terms of an actual outcome? Meaning, we had 20% people, jobs unfilled, and now we're at 15% or what have you. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so on the housing side, we did in parallel with this, the state funded our region for READY that funded a $8.5 million in the region for infrastructure, and then a housing study that just wrapped up this summer. So we do have a housing study with a plan for Tippecanoe County on ways we should address the housing gap and what that looks like over the next 10 years. And so that kind of moved over there for the time being.
Okay.
We do know that we do need a lot more housing in the community, right? And so it's important that I can share that study with you at another time. And then the second part of that was?
How successful have filling jobs and getting people to move here? Like, how do you measure the actual end result? I know you have a lot of unique visitors and a lot of traffic, but what is the actual outcome?
Yeah, so what we learned kind of along the way through the TMAT pilot project, and then also then the work that we've been doing in establishing those linkages where we've had individuals from outside the community raise their hand that they're interested in those jobs, is it's difficult getting the HR managers to work with us directly in that way. And so we've partnered with some of the staffing agencies as well, and we hand off candidates to the staffing agencies who are working in that area with the employers as a more motivated set. And so what we know for sure is that the campaigns that we've run, since we've learned going over the past 2.5 years, have really become brand awareness campaigns. And we haven't been able to track a person hired at a firm based upon the campaigns yet.
So, in your opinion, based on the information that you're provided, or maybe lack thereof, from what I'm hearing, do you feel this has been a successful outcome or a successful program to get people to move here and to fill vacant jobs for our community?
I think we're heading in that right direction. We do know it takes a period of time to get people interested. The community does continue to grow. So when we look at those marketing campaigns, we are thinking about them as brand awareness campaigns and not necessarily as particular talent attraction campaigns. Again, we're working on a set of people who tend to live within 50 miles of where they graduated high school. And so it is a particular challenge, we know, for them to move in general. And so we're continuing to push that. I wish I had better metrics at this point, but I don't.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I got another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Full of them. The pilot talent attraction program, I think you showed debuted in 2021, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into that a little bit? 'Cause you just said it's not necessarily a talent attraction component, it's more of a brand marketing. And so I'm kind of, you see the difference in my head a little bit there?
Mm-hmm. Right, so we launched down that path because TMAP as a company partnered with us to look at this and that segment of the population that was different.
Mm-hmm.
They did identify there were thousands of people. At that point, if you remember, TMAP's the company that did the remote worker program, right?
Yep.
And they're doing remote worker programs all across the state still. We offered an incentive. So there was an incentive for people to move. We actually didn't have anyone take us up on the incentive. The incentive amount appeared to be almost trivial for getting people interested in clicking through. It was more about the quality of life aspects is what it appeared in that pilot program. And so they developed kind of 4 things for us to work on, and that's what we've been working on since.
Okay.
So they had identified, and they did a national campaign, and so people in California and Oregon and Washington and on the East Coast were seeing the campaign as well, and so it did have a kind of a broader impact. We titrated that down to look at the Midwest, and initially we were focused on Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio. For the second round of that, we went Illinois just because of the opportunities. We thought, our quality of life and the things that we were seeing, we had a lot more interaction from people in Illinois, and so that's how we kind of moved that forward.
Okay. What does your budget look like for the proposed $500,000 for the next 5 years for this particular amount of money?
Yeah, so we'll increase the amount of spend in Ohio and broaden that out so that it's equal to Illinois. And so that would probably be around, $275,000, $300,000 for that.
Okay. If approved, I would like to recommend, similar to when we do tax abatements, kind of like an annual statement of compliance update kind of sort of thing, if that's something that you guys be willing to do, just kind of hey, this is where we're at, just as, an annual, we've spent this money, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're not seeing, this is how we're shifting gears based on the trends.
Sure.
I would appreciate that, just an annual update. Again, if approved next month, I'm assuming is when it would come to us as a formal vote.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else?
Thank you, Councilman.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner FYI.
Anybody else notice how very bright it is in this room now? And we've been doing some upgrades to our lighting. They're more energy efficient, and I think they're done on the ground floor for right now. 2 things to take note of. One, if you haven't been on 52 South, drive by, look at the At the new shelter, things are coming along very, very nice there. We're still looking at a mid-summer 2024 opening, and then if you are out and about tomorrow at 11 a.m., a ribbon-cutting ceremony on Eisenhower Road at Clegg Botanical Gardens. There was a new signal put in there some time back to improve highway safety for the pedestrians crossing from the parking lot to the gardens, and this is a great time of year to get up there if you haven't been there before. It's one of the neatest places in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment for us this morning? Hearing none. Our next meeting is November 14th, and I will take the last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.